No, hold on, Rob. Okay, let's talk about ground rules here. Are you gonna share the screen with, you have the presentation?
Uh,
Hold on, Rob.
I don't have it, but I can look it up.
Oh, I could get it. It's off the email you sent me. Cause I had trouble with the, the only thing I can get
So
in the drive is the first 10 slides.
okay, do you want me to run the slides then?
I really didn't. I really prefer to do it. So to do
Okay,
that, I have to bring it up.
yes. I mean, I can try.
No, I know where it is. Just hold on.
Okay, I can try giving you the remote access, but that doesn't seem to work very well.
No, I can't. Okay, this was Anita. Here, presentation.
Yeah, that's the latest version. I updated it the last time I did it, which was probably in March, maybe.
Yeah, and I updated it yesterday. What's
Okay, good.
okay? How do you open it? Where?
We should put Barb on our webinar committee.
There we go.
No,
Yeah.
do share screen button down there. And then share. What's your PowerPoint? Yeah. Okay, now when you go live, you can. Are you seeing it, Anita?
Yeah, I am seeing it. Okay, you've got the old upfront slides there, so we can use those.
You or
Yeah.
me?
I am seeing it.
Okay.
It's up to you to, if you want to do it, I'm happy to
Why
do
don't
it.
you do the intro and then
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going all the way back to 50, whatever it is, 53.
Yeah,
I added the upcoming webinars.
yeah, it's all there.
Oh, you could tell?
Yeah.
I can't. Yep. And there's one I'll verbalize. There's Friday, Columbus is having one on nonprofits,
I
board
saw that on
governance.
boards. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if I fail to state that, will you?
Yes. And just go back to the start of the presentation, and
That's what
I'll use the other slides, the other
okay.
score slides. Yes, just start there. And I will
Okay.
use the
All
other
right.
score
Okay.
slide.
Yeah,
So,
that works.
okay, you'll have to not share your screen. So I can share mine first.
So do that stop share, the red
Is
button
that?
right there.
Got it.
Now, when she's done,
Then
you
hit.
I
share
actually,
screen.
yeah, stopped yours.
Okay.
So I'll do this,
Well, my IT staff will be in the kitchen preparing dessert for tonight, so I can grab her. I can get her. I don't want to grab her. Of course, it's my wife. I'd like to grab.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in good shape.
If you run into a problem, you can let me know.
okay, so it didn't want to start the slideshow.
It doesn't?
There, maybe. Let me do this again. Oh, I lost my slides. Okay. Okay, now I got it. Okay, can you see my?
Yep, yep, yep,
Okay,
good
good.
shape. Yeah,
Okay,
the only thing, I got my notes based on number of slides and then the slide numbers will probably change, but that's,
mm,
I think I can, deal with that. I don't really have a lot of miscellaneous comments other than,
okay,
some comments about how score, uh, how we do things at school and
Mhm.
et cetera.
okay.
Anyhow, of course, please make comments as we go. This is, you're more
Oh, if I
familiar
have
with the
it, I will.
presentation. Yep. All right. Do you expect a good turnout?
Pardon? I forgot to look and see how many signed up for it. Um,
Well, we'll find
so
out shortly.
we'll find out when they show up.
Yep, yep.
So we have some interesting new mentors.
Oh, good quality. Yeah.
Yeah, I coached Jim Briner.
Well, he's
And
first class. Yeah.
yeah, he's great to mentor with, and very interesting person. And I did another one, Michael Stanek, who also is interesting. And then I coached Ryan Mincy as well.
Oh,
And
okay. The SBA.
yeah, he's been, I've co-mentored with him a few times. He's been very good on financial things related to specific, particularly to preparing to go to the bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dan told, so he and Dan
Yeah.
are good background. Yeah.
I think Dan has broader experience.
Mhm.
Ryan's a pretty young person. Okay, I'm gonna start the webinar.
Wonderful.
Welcome to those of you who are just joining us. We will be starting in a few minutes. We'll just wait till we allow a few people to come on. I think we'll wait 2 minutes and then get started. Okay, I think we'll get started. So welcome again to those of you who are joining us. We appreciate the fact that you are giving up an hour of your time today to join us. Our webinar today is on funding your nonprofit. It is not about grants. As you probably know, if you have been in business for a while, grants are very difficult. And we do have another webinar coming up on basics of grants, but this is for the alternative types of funding that are available to you as a nonprofit. But first, I want to give you a little information about SCORE. So SCORE is the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors in the nation. So no matter what stage your business is, we can find a mentor that will help you. Aside from the 100 approximately mentors that we have in Cleveland, there are 10,000 across the country that we can tap into if you have a special need that we are unable to fulfill. So no matter what your business is, you can go to our website, sign up for a mentor, and whoever you start mentoring with can call on anyone across the country to co-mentor. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities. We do this through mentoring and education. Our purpose is to give all of you as small business owners the support that you need to be successful. We know that small businesses drive the economy, and particularly true in Cleveland. So we're grateful to you as a small business owner to contribute to our community. Here are some numbers on the national level, what we have done in the past year with over 31,000 new businesses started, 120,000 jobs, total number of jobs created. So we are really pleased with the way things are going, and we hope that we can help you with your business. We have many different types of business owners. Approximately 10% of our business owners are veterans. More than half are women, which we're very pleased with. At least I'm very pleased with. So welcome to all. Each mentor signs a code of ethics on an annual basis to protect your information. We do not ever share your information with others. We don't make money from what we learn from you, and we protect all of your information. It's all confidential. So this is a snapshot of our website. You can sign up for a mentor here. You can view not only what live workshops are coming up, but also there are approximately 85 or 90 recorded webinars. So if you saw something that you wanted to join and you were unable to, you can go to our website and you can probably find it there. There are also a lot of other resources, articles, blogs, etc., that will help you get started in your small business. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. Our services are free. We don't charge. We're supported both by the Small Business Administration and many different organizations in Cleveland who specifically want to see small businesses in Cleveland be successful. I will point out before we get started that you will receive a copy of the slides and also a link to the recording. Here is a QR code that takes you directly to our website or a link. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let Bob Fedor, who is our presenter today. Again, yes, you will receive a copy of the webinar. And Bob, you can bring up your slides and get started.
Can you see them now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Anita. Again, my name's Bob Fedor. I've been with SCORE about 17 years now, and I was responsible for funding SCORE on a local basis, both here in Cleveland for about 5 years and in the Philadelphia area for a number of years. I've also had a large number of nonprofit clients who are looking for funding, and so I've had a reasonable amount of experience. I'm going to point out, though, that there is no simple formula. It really depends on your nonprofit and who might be able to fund it. And we'll go into that in detail, but there's no simple template. That's the word I was using. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is the statistics on nonprofit funding. Where do you look for funding opportunities? How to identify opportunities that are the most relevant for your business, and things to consider about individual donations. Probably the most important thing to realize is your need for fundraising. Up to 50% of time and effort should go to this effort, at least by one person. And if you do not have the ability to charge service fees, it's much more important to do that. Of course, the greatest need for nonprofits is money, and that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of this presentation, how to get that money. Now, typical sources of the funds is about half in general come from service fees and sales of goods. About 25% come from government contracts for services, and charitable giving typically accounts for less than 25%. Now that varies tremendously. Now, as I mentioned, SCORE is a nonprofit. We do not get service fees and sales of goods. We choose to give all our services free, such as this webinar. We get some money from the SBA that would follow, I guess, under government contracts, and the rest of our funding, 75 or about 85% of our funding, comes from charitable giving from either foundations or corporations. Typical examples of fee for service is obviously hospitals bill patients, and you know hospitals are nonprofits, or at least most are. Museums charge admission fees. Some theaters sell tickets. Civic organizations charge dues. Colleges, which are nonprofits mostly, they require tuition. That's where the business model requires fee for services. An example, Girl Scouts, as we all know, and I guess earlier this spring, that was the campaign. Girl Scout cookies sales, about 27% of the proceeds goes to the cost of the goods. The balance, over 80%, goes into programs or member supports, etc. But so they get about 80% to promote their programs. Now, other examples is WBIZ, our local NPR station, has an annual auction. Many nonprofits have balls or dinners where admissions include sizable donations. You'll see golf tournaments on behalf of nonprofits, 5K, 10Ks, buddy walks. The thing we're trying to point out here, though, is all these require a lot of effort, and events, you have to decide, is it worth the effort? In other words, you have to do a cost benefit analysis. We at SCORE, for example, do not do golf tournaments because the effort is so large to organize it, and there's such a minimum audience for it. Now, you may be surprised, this is 2022, during COVID, almost $500 billion in the United States was given. That's a huge amount of money. When I guess our GDP, gross domestic product, is like 34 trillion. So, well, that's a considerable amount of it. It's one, let's see, $500 billion, 35. It's about 5%, something like that. Individuals give 64% of it, foundations 21%, and corporations 15%. You may be surprised by this, and it says that fundamentally, for most nonprofits, you go after individuals. But it's also important to diversify. You certainly do not want to have all your funding coming from one entity or one type of entity. You want to spread it as much as possible. Now, where do the funds, charitable dollars go? Religion, education, human services, grant-making foundations, and public society benefits. Despite COVID, donations increased in every sector and increased very significantly for arts, culture, and humanities, which is a very good thing. That people recognize that despite the problems of COVID, that these efforts are well worth the investment. Now, individual giving, when it comes down to it, what we call the Pareto principle, 20% of the donors usually provide about 80% of the funds. You have to identify your highest yield donors, and you have to go at them in any way you could communicate with them to identify them and to follow up with them. Now, sorry for the slide confusion here. This slide shows how the various age groups, millennials, baby boomers, Gen Z, how they give. And you can see that online is over 50% of through credit cards, debit cards, over 50% of the donations. Cash is fairly small, and but the importance of online, and if you look at the bottom set, you see that whether it's through social media, email, or website, you have to have a program that reaches out to all that, through all these means. Now, from an individual donor standpoint, about 57% are enrolled in a recurring giving program. That is incredibly important. You want that recurring giving, whether it's monthly or whether it's you spend money to continue that donation. One-time gifts average about $121, and also 9% of the individuals participate in workplace giving programs where there are matching funds from their place of business. Now, is this a good time to ask for funds? Absolutely. Yes, there is inflation, but it's not historically affect charitable contributions. And as I said, even during COVID, contributions were expanding. Of course, our economy is still expanding, And many people have large cash reserves, particularly, you know, probably the older you have, including retirees, they that's where a lot of the cash is sitting, and it's available if you can give them a good reason to donate. People, it feels good to give, and and you have to find those prospects, whether what their age is, what their income, their tax status, are they on Social Security? Uh, even though inflation's a problem in the economy, it's not the same to all. And there's a lot of people who are set in their residence, have the income and the balance sheet to be able to give. You just have to find them, and they do want to help. So you have to convince them of your purpose. But if you don't ask, people think you do not need the help. Now, a donations page on your website is critical. As we said, online donations was over 50% of the general donations. It's increased about 23% a year, and over half are repeat donors, which is exactly what you want. Online monthly giving revenue has increased 40%, and it's increasingly popular, and that is excellent. Monthly versus annually is easier because it's much less expensive, at least in the eyes of the donor. Now, you need a very good donation page. Perfect donation page is what you have to strive for, so that you can raise more money than ever. And it needs to have features that'll engage the donors. If you have a page that is too slow, it's too complicated, it just doesn't work, and you will not get anything out of it. The worst thing you could do is force a donor to create an account in order to make a donation. It's a terrible idea that would drastically increase your number of incomplete donations. So please don't force people to make an account. Keep it as concise as possible. Make sure your branding is consistent. Obviously, you have to tell how the money will be used. Optimize for mobile, because probably more than half the people will use their phone as opposed to their computer. And then you must have a process where you immediately thank the donors. Make sure your page runs on multiple platforms. Check out Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Firefox, etc. Make sure your website is secure if you're collecting data. Now, in individual giving, you must have budget projections up to date and available to show everyone. You have to constantly re-examine your case for need. Make sure it's relevant in the light of COVID. Revise based on changes forced by COVID. Now you may say, well, COVID's over. Well, a lot of people changed their behavior. A lot of foundations changed their objectives due to COVID, and they haven't changed back. They still may be working remote. They still may be favoring food banks as opposed to cultural entities. SCORE had problems with a number of its funders during COVID, who said that they've changed their priorities away from new business entrepreneurship to social services such as food banks. Even though COVID's over, they retain that bias, and you have to go and redo your pitch, your demonstrate your need, and try to convince people that we're in a post-COVID scenario. And therefore, you have to make donor recruitment and fundraising a high priority. And as I said earlier on, at least half-time person has to work at this. I spent probably 5 years, pretty much half-time, fourscore, just attending events, reaching out to potential donors, and trying to update them on our progress. And that's very, very important. Once you get a donation, you have to continue to give updates on your progress so that people know that their money is being well utilized. So you have to come up with a statement of need. That's the bait. And you have to write it. You have to know it inside out and backward. You have to cast a vision that is so compelling that it convinces them to make a gift. And it has to be written from the donor perspective. Tell the donors why you need funding and what outcomes you expect from their investment. It's why you need their money and why their investment is important. And why it should be done now. You have to work on this. One thing, it's possible that once you do it, you would have to update it fairly often as you make progress and you change the needs for your need for the money.
Could I make a comment here?
Sure.
I have a client who has a nonprofit that helps kids get school supplies and so forth. And one of the things she does that I think promotes donors to give more is she will say, if you give me $10, that will purchase, so many notebooks, etc. If you give me $25, that will allow me to buy a backpack and fill it with certain things. So, if I'm looking at the website and I think, well, maybe I'll give $5 if I know $10 is going to purchase a package of stuff, I might be encouraged to give 10 instead of 5, and then maybe 25 instead of 20. So if you can give people a picture of what their donation is going to purchase, that goes a long way to encourage them. I'm done.
Very good. So in your case statement, you have to evoke emotion. You have to paint a picture of why someone should invest in you. Why are you unique? What is the history of your organization? Why did it developed? Explanation of your programs. What difference are you making? How will the funds be used? What difference will your gift make? What can you do to help? In part of this is you don't necessarily have to ask just for money. You might ask for volunteers. We at SCORE ask for volunteers all the time because we're an all volunteer organization. So if you need more than financial support, or you may need help, hands, you have to put that request in your case statement. Now, one of the ways to get individual funding is through crowdfunding, which is reaching out to a much broader audience through the internet. And you set a goal, you tell your story, you involve supporters, you add pictures and videos, and you're doing this on a platform, which we'll list in the next slide, the various platforms. You must communicate through email, text, share social media, and of course you have to thank donors and this process with withdraw funds. This is a crowdfunding process, but you don't do this independently. You have to use a platform. Here's the top crowdfunding sites for nonprofits: CauseVox, Fundly, Causes, Rally, Crowd Rise, Ignition Deck. Many are free to use, but there's always going to be a fee for the donations. They have to get paid somehow. So they sort of control the process for you. But it really comes down to you, much like individual seeking individual donations, you have to present the case, and it's just a way to get it out to a much, much broader audience. Now, many nonprofits overlook implementing what's called a legacy gifts program. You know, as and one part here is everybody who is in retirement has you know, financial means and have IRAs or 401ks, etc., but particularly IRAs. Once you retired, you have to um, uh, you have to release that money and give it back, pay taxes on that if they were tax deferred and gained. Now, after it's called RMD, and RMDs kick in now at age 73. When I was younger, it kicked in at 70 and a half. And what we have to do is, if you have a set of investments, each year you have to pay taxes on that. And what is overlooked is if you donate it to charity, you do not have to pay tax on that. That's a huge amount of money out there. And there's literally millions of people contribute what's called RMDs to avoid taxes on their distributions from their tax-free funds. And this is where you want to tap. It's an incredible opportunity to get donations. And at the same time, the donor saves on paying taxes on his investments. So if you need to know more about that, your financial advisor, or I'm sure most of the SCORE advisors can help you with that. But there's a lot of money available to be tapped, but you have to get to know how to tap it. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. You have to find the people who have these RMD obligations. Now, once you get donors, you have to obviously track them, keep track of them through CRM softwares. Here's 4 of them: Boomerang, Donor Perfect, Network for Good, Salesforce. It depends on how many donors you have. SCORE has a handful. We don't need software. We can use a simple spreadsheet. But if you're going to get small number of donations from a large number of people, you need a network system to track your donors. Now, the main sources of grants are corporate, they're the federal government, there's state and municipal funded grant resources, and they're all different. Let's start with the corporate. First of all, corporate giving programs can be one of 2 types. Like almost all banks have foundations, but they also have community development departments and funds. If it's a larger amount, they're going to generally put you through the foundation. If it's for community development, or if it's a non-recurring kind of grant, request, you'll use their community development money. It's usually a lot easier to get the community development money than it is the foundation money because of the process in the approval process. Now, one of the things in corporate giving is that many corporations have matching gift programs. And you should always ask a donor if their company matches. For example, at SCORE, through the years, we've gotten matches from IBM, from ConocoPhillips, and other large companies. You'd be surprised how much is out there from a matching standpoint. It says 65% of Fortune 500 companies have matching gifts, and 4 to 10 billion goes unclaimed every year. And there's about 18 million people work for companies that have matching gift programs. Obviously, you want to try to find those people. And $2 to $3 billion a year are donated through that capability. And it's really a good thing if you could find that. Here's a list of some of the companies, such as General Electric, British Petroleum, Exxon, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft. They all have matching gifts. And you can see a significant amount of money, for example, through Microsoft, you get up to $15,000 matched. Now, there are a lot of private foundations out there. Many private foundations exist solely to better society by supporting other nonprofits. They make grants rather than directly running a charitable activity themselves. A couple of examples would be Cleveland Foundation, Community Foundation of Lorain County, for example. They gather donations from other people and other companies, and they manage the process of giving it to other nonprofits. And so they don't run charitable nonprofits themselves, they support charitable nonprofits. These funds are, such as Cleveland Foundation, are extremely important. And if it's very easy to go identify them, go online and understand their missions. And if you can match their mission, then it's pretty easy to follow their process to get funding. I'm not saying it's easy to get funds. I'm saying it's easy to apply for it. They are very difficult to get. It takes a lot of time through private foundations. Oops. If you're going to apply to private foundations, you need a cover letter, a business plan, that's your case statement, a description of your mission and your need for your nonprofit, what you will address, project budgets and financial needs. And most of these are online. Here's a comment that many of those private foundations really changed their objectives during COVID and may not have changed. And what this means is if you're a startup nonprofit, it's very difficult to get money from private foundations. You need to, it's very rare that they'll do a startup. Here again, our list of top private corporation foundations. You see Walmart, SCORE has gotten money from Walmart in the past. And it's interesting, you can get it from individual stores. Actually, their managers have a budget for donations, or you get it through their corporate headquarters. Wells Fargo is a large one. SCORE is fortunate that we do get money from Wells Fargo and have in the past. And you can see again, there's financials, there's the oil companies, Microsoft, These big companies have wonderful foundations, but as you can imagine, there's an awful lot of people applied to them, and it's always good to have a connection. We have a connection for example, at Wells Fargo, and we had when I was in Philadelphia, had a connection with Walmart, and we have a connection. It's not on this list, but IBM has a big foundation, and we have a connection with them too. One of the ways you find out who has grants, you search grants within www.grants.gov. It's a great source, and it takes a little bit of work, but you can find a list of foundations. Top ones that you'll find are National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for Humanities. There's a lot of state and city government grants, and you find them on their websites. For example, the city of Cleveland is running a storefront renewal program that if you're putting want to upgrade a retail business in the city of Cleveland, they have money. In the past, for example, Lakewood had money for a storefront renewal and advertising. These change all the time, but you have to look at where you live and where you want to seek, where your place of business is. You have to check out the local city, even county, and the state, and whether there's a grant program. They come and go, and you have to continue to look. I would say maybe each quarter you check out these websites. There are state, national endowment for humanity councils that have funding. And then perhaps most important here is we have a partner called Candid, and its website is candid.org. They have a database of all the foundations, and we have it's a national organization, but they have a Cleveland office, and we have a close relationship with one of their members, or one of their managers, David Holmes. And a lot of clients, our nonprofit clients, we use Candid to find out which foundations are relevant to your nonprofit.
David will be demonstrating how to use their database before our grant presentation later this month.
Yeah, I have the date and time for that in the last slide.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah. Here's a list of websites that, again, you'll be getting this link or these slides and this recording, so you can follow up with that, these sources. But Candid is for private foundations. You have to go to ohio.gov to find out what's going on with the state. You have to go to the city, and as I said before, should do this maybe every quarter, every 6 months, because those programs come and go. Now, if you're a women in business nonprofit, there are Federal Department of Health grants, National Science Foundation grants. We Magazine has grants. Cabbage Womenpreneurials blog has grants. Anita, you have more experience than I in this area. You want to comment?
Yeah, these are ones that we've checked recently. You can also Google. You'll find there are companies. Unfortunately, a lot of these small grants are restricted to employees or related to employees of certain companies. So you can go to those sites and look through the grants that are available. And if you find one, they generally, again, have online applications. And the ones that you find here might be more amenable to startups. Some of them are very specific for startups for women, but they're generally small amounts in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $5,000. So not certainly worth looking into.
Okay, thank you. And a few more tips. And this is always a good one, whether it's for a nonprofit or a for-profit business. Find an established business similar to your own. Reach out, introduce yourself, ask about its early days. Looking to your professional peers in the nonprofit space is a great strategy for focusing on what has already worked. It's even better if you could find these a little bit of a geographic distance away so they don't think you're competing for the same dollars. You know, maybe there's somebody in Columbus or Toledo or Pittsburgh that have a similar nonprofit, but people like to talk about what their success and how they've gotten funded. Now, for example, the Cleveland chapter and when I was in the Philadelphia chapter, I would look at how SCORE raised money throughout the country. What were they doing in California, Florida, Chicago, etc. Reach out to the people, check out their websites. Often other nonprofits will list their sponsors on their websites, and it'll give you an idea on, what type of company has funded similar efforts. And you'll find out this particularly for banks. Banks fund very similar things throughout the country. And you got to go identify, but most banks have different missions. Some banks and some private company foundations will focus on poverty. Some will do it on children. Some will do it, for other purposes. You have to do the work and find which one is similar to matches your mission. But you don't have to invent the wheel here. There are similar organizations somewhere in the country, and they're getting funded. Find them, see how they're getting funded, see who give you an idea of who to reach out to then. And with the internet, it's really easy to try to get this information. Now, the other thing is if you're a startup nonprofit and you've just applied for your 501c3 status, as you know, donors cannot get tax deductions unless you have a 501c3. That's why you get one. So your donors can get tax relief. But you don't have to wait until the government actually grants you that. You could say that it's pending, in essence. And you could start the process of getting your funding saying that you've applied for the 501c3. Now, grant writing skills, we will have a separate class on that, a webinar coming up. In fact, Anita and David Holmes will be presenting it. But it's incredibly important to most nonprofits. Unless yours is a national level institution, and I assume it isn't, it's going to be depending on you how you're going to write your grants request. Candid does have writing classes to help you start. My own experience was, to write grants for requests to foundations on behalf of SCORE required an intimate detail of knowledge of SCORE, of your nonprofit. And hiring a grant writer, everybody said, well, what can I hire a grant writer? Well, you can, but you're going to have to teach them about your organization. And the online forms that you have to fill in are so detailed on what your purpose, what your financial details are, all your history, etc., that you're going to find out that it's probably best to do it yourself. Now, on the other hand, if you have, once you do train a grant writer who would know your capability, then that, that would work out in the future. But the beginning for a startup, it's very difficult to get a grant writer to understand what you know in your head or what you have is a business plan. So that's my personal opinion. Now, as I said, the grant writing basics, I'll go through this in reverse. With Anita and David Holmes is very important. It'll be on July 3rd at noon. And but we'll have one on building capacity for your nonprofit, and that's you, Anita, isn't it? How to expand your nonprofit.
Yeah, no, I think
Dan
Dan's gonna
Uhrman
do
will be
that.
given. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be on June 26th at noon also. And
Mhm.
it's not here, but I just got an email this morning. Our Columbus chapter is doing one this Friday, Columbus Score, on board directors and governance. It's 2 hours from 10 to 12 on this Friday, the 21st. I'm sure if you just search Columbus Score webinars, you can register for that. So there's 3 coming up in the next, less than 2 weeks that should really help you out. Building your capacity, grant writing basics, and this board of director governance issues. So that's what we have going on at SCORE for nonprofits this quarter. And if you have any questions, Anita and I'd be happy to address them.
I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment. Any organization that has a database of nonprofits to identify other nonprofits to volunteer to get experience in the area. I want to get into homeless veterans. Well, if you go to the Candid website, they also have a list of organizations that have received grants as well as organizations that give grants. Because Candid used to be the foundation center that had the database of all the grants, and Grant Maker had the database with all the people who received grants. So now they've merged. So Candid has all of that information. But if you're interested in homeless veterans, you might want to go to the VA website. They have a voucher program for some veterans, but in most cases, if you, for instance, are looking for housing homeless veterans, you would expect that most of them would be self-pay or perhaps qualify for Section 8. So I would suggest, if you're interested in that you get a SCORE mentor who helps with nonprofits, and they would be able to give you information on that. And I don't see that we have any other questions. So again, I will repeat that you will get a copy of the slides and a link to the recording. And so we hope that you have found this information really helpful. And also hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And Bob, thank you so much for doing the presentation.